Okay, so welcome to this lesson where we will look at writing user-defined functions. Okay, so SQL by itself is quite powerful. However, it does not have all the capability to do what we call database programming. So most DBMSs, most database management systems, they provide a programming language that you can use to build more complex functionality um, into your databases. So one way is by writing a function. So all of you know how to program. So I will be going over the steps that we use to create a user-defined function. For this example, let's assume that we want to compute the price of a stock, and the price of the stock depends on the name of the company. So if I look at name IBM, the way I would compute the stock, I would find the ASCII value of I, the ASCII value of B, and the ASCII value of M, and I would add them together. Okay? Likewise, if I were to find the ASCII of small I, the ASCII of small b, and the ASCII of small m, and I add them together, I would get 312. So having small letters would mean I get a higher price for my stock, which is a good thing. Okay, so I'm just making this up. So what we want to do, we want to have a function where you provide the name of the stock, and the function will return what is the value. Okay, so let's just quickly look at ASCII, MANASCII. Okay, and you all know about ASCII. For example, capital A is 65. Okay, but if we look at small a, small a is 97. The small letters have a larger value for ASCII. All right. Likewise, a small m is 109, but a capital M is only 77. All right. So we all know ASCII. We've been using it since you started studying IT. Okay. So this is our plan. Our function takes in a string and it pops out a number, which is simply taking each individual letter, finding the ASCII value of it, and adding it to a total. So how do we do that? Well, first thing, when you're creating a user-defined function, we're going to simply say create a function. Oops. Let's use capital letters so we can differentiate. You can use small letters, but when you're writing SQL, sometimes you need to use capital letters so that you can differentiate keywords from variables. So we give our function a name. Let's call it valuation. Okay, and we will now specify the parameters. So we're going to call this symbol, and it's going to be text. So we're supposed to give this function valuation a text value. And then this function returns, notice I have returns, it's an S, an integer value, which is just the stock value. Now, this part, I have to add it. And you'll see this in the documentation, which I will provide to you, so you can further delve into it. PL, PG, SQL. Okay, we're just specifying the language we're using. Okay, programming language, PostgreSQL. SQL. That's the name of the language. Now, after we have all of that set up, we will now go ahead and actually write the body of the function. And we'll put the body as a string. Okay, so to do that, we will use double $signs. Okay, anything in between our double $signs is the body. Okay, all right, let's start. Whenever we create a body, the first thing you do when you're creating your function, you have to declare whatever variables you're going to use, just like any other programming language that you have used. So we say declare, okay, and tab. We list out the variables that we will be using. So let's say symbol value, what will be the final answer? And we say the type, integer, and we can give it an initial value, 0. All right, that's straightforward. This will contain our final answer. And one thing we must do, since we'll be given a string, we need to separate each letter, right? So I need to find how many characters are in the letter, in the word. So unfortunately, or fortunately, Postgres gives me a function, okay, that allows me to find how many characters are in a string. And so the name of that function is char length. Okay. So I will just give this function the symbol, and it will give me back how many characters are there, and I will store it in this variable symbol length for later, because I want to be able to iterate over each of those strings, find their ASCII value, and then add it to symbol value. Okay. So I have my variables declared. So now I begin. Okay, we say begin. All right. So I will have a begin and I will have an end. Okay, this is where I actually write, in essence, the computation or whatever I want to do. Okay, so I declare and then I actually do the coding. So I will need to create a loop, right? Okay, so if I create a loop, then it means I need a counter, such as I. Okay. However, unlike C++, we don't have that for loop the way it's set up in C++. We use it another way. Okay. We use our while loop. So the way we do that, we will say while, okay, I less than or equal to symbol length. Remember, we're going to loop through the character one by one, but we already know the length. So that's going to be my stopping point. Okay. So while I is less than or equals to symbol, I'm going to loop. Okay. And this is how we create the loop. So in here, I will, okay, do the loop. Okay. Now this I have to declare it. Okay. It can't just I can't just magically use it. So I'll have to declare it. So inside here, I will have to create a new declare block. Okay, and I will say that I'll use a variable I of type integer, which is starting out at 1. Okay, and then I want to create a variable called C of type text. This variable will hold each of the characters. Okay. All right, so I have everything set up. So let's actually write the code. So I'm going to take this C and I'm going to call this substring function. Once again, this is a function that is provided to us. What this does, if you give it a string and you tell it where you want to begin and how many characters to take, we only want one, it will return that substring. So in essence, what this is saying is, yes, take something like IBM. Start at position 1, but I only want you to give me one character. So it will return to me the I. Okay? And I'll place that in the C variable. So what do I want to do? Well, I just have to find the ASCII value of whatever is in C. So I will see a symbol value, okay, will be the old symbol value, which is currently 0, right? And I will add to it whatever is the ASCII value of C, okay? So whatever C is in terms of ASCII, whatever number it gives us, I'll add that to the 0, and that becomes my new symbol value. And of course, it's a while loop, so I have to increment the I. Okay. And we're going to keep doing that until the loop finishes. And so we have to have an end loop. Okay. So the while loop, we do all of this, and then we have an end loop. So you can consider this loop and this end loop like your curly brace. Right? This is like your open curly brace. This is like your closed curly brace. And then of course, if you have a begin, you must have an end. Okay. So we have our end loop here. Okay. We have our begin, and then we have our end. Okay, let's get rid of this one for now. Okay. All right. So the actual work that we had to do was within this while loop. Okay, and once everything is done, we expect that symbol value will contain our final answer. And so, if that contains our final answer, then we need to actually return that final answer, right? So to return that final answer, we will simply say return, not returns, but return symbol value. Okay, again, semicolon. And finally, we will complete with another end. Okay. So dollar signs, inside the dollar sign, we're going to declare, we're going to have our begin, we're going to have another declaration, okay, we're going to have our end, and then finally we're going to have our return value. Okay, so let's give this a try to see how it works out. So I'm going to save this. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read in this function. So it's named valuation. So I'm going to say \I evaluate dot SQL. All right, so it's saying syntax error at or near while. So let's look at that. Line 18. I miss a semicolon anywhere? Okay, I have my I integer 1. I have my text. Yes. Okay. That's the problem. Okay. So after I declare, I need to have my begin block, which I completely missed. Okay. Okay. Let's do that. Let's put that out. Yeah, let's put that there. Yeah. And let's put this one here. Just trying to make everything line up. All right, that looks much better. Okay, so I have begin. Oh, okay, let me put this on here. All right, so I have a begin here and I have an end here. Okay, I have a begin here, I have an end here. All right, and this final end, we'll just take this semicolon here. Although it shouldn't be a problem if I put one here, but you don't have to. Okay, so I have my function created. All right, and so now I am supposed to call this function. All right, so let's give it a try. How do you call a function? That's the question. So a function is called valuation. And what will happen if we give it IBM? Okay, will this work? No, it won't work. Okay, so the way you do it is you simply say select. Okay, you say select. Let's try again. I'm going to use capital IBM and we get 216. All right. So if you want to see if your function is actually there, you could always, let's see, backslash question mark. All right. We could do a quick rundown. This is always helpful. You want to ask about functions. You could scroll down and you could say, oh, okay, where would my functions be? Keep searching, and say, oh, here, okay, this line. Okay, you can say backslash df, and you can say n. So let's try that, backslash df n. Yeah. These are all the functions. We have one here, valuation. Okay. Valuation. It's not spelled correctly. Let's see. Yeah. V-A-L V-A-L-U-A-T, valuation. Okay, so let's see. Might run into a problem because I had valuation there before. So let's see if we can import it. Yeah, so let's drop function evaluation. Okay, and let's import. So let's check to see that it still works. Okay. Okay, so it still works. All right, so let's recap. To create a function in Postgres, and this applies to other programming languages, to other DBMSs as well. You create a function, you say what parameters are, you say what the return value is, you say which language you're using, you use as, and then the entire body is in between these pair of dollar signs. Okay. Like I said, you don't need to put a semicolon here. You can just put the final one here. But if you wanted, you could have done that. We could drop that. We could load again. Then we could verify. Okay, and it still works. All right, so that's it for how to create a user-defined function. I will be providing links to the documentation as how to set up a function so you can read a bit more. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this lesson. I will see you in the next one.